Good morning. Bring up the music. Good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Poetry Studio. This is Joseph the Poet. I am very excited and glad to be here and be able to write kind of about the things that are on my mind and might be on yours. This morning I'm thinking about life changes. The DJ I watch, Akira, always talks about these 7-year cycles that the world goes through. And I'm kind of thinking about my own life's 7-year cycles. Not necessarily on the dot 7 years, but, there's changes. There's life beliefs that I used to hold or be more passionate about, things that would get me all worked up. And as I have changed and in some ways tried to improve, I've kind of been reflecting a bit on those things, and I might write a bit about that this morning in a longer poem. Before that, though, I am working through creating more haikus for this project that I'm in the middle of. I'm actually going to probably be doing the duplicates of these haikus at this point. Fun thing about these streams is I just simply type as fast as I can, and I try to get a project, banged out and get to conversate with everybody else as they watch me do it. So, hence is the project for this morning. I hope everybody is doing well that is tuning in. This morning I slept in, but I did make it to the stream. Turns out I just forgot to set my alarm, but that my wife was waking up at around the same time anyway, so it worked out. I did not get my usual morning run in though. Salve, Fool Killer! Look at you dropping Latin in the chat. That's cool. What brought you to the great ancient language of the Romans? That's incredible. I learned Latin like for 3 years in high school. It was a fun time. My favorite word ever in Latin was eugape, which means hooray in Latin. I mean, it's just literally hooray. Phone's charged. There we go. Oh. Curiosity, says Fool Killer. Well, I'll tell you, your curiosity is well placed. I really like Latin. But Latin is a language, and I heard this once said, the way that I heard Latin and Greek, and ancient Greek, described was this. That Latin is easy to start, hard to continue. So you learn some of the words initially, and you're like, oh, wow, look at that, I can speak Latin, and it's true. But then as you learn more Latin, and as you get into translating longer ancient works, when we hit the Aeneid, it was a mess. It was an absolute disaster, because the Latin, the Romans decided they just could put words wherever the heck they wanted. Word order was basically non-existent at points. That was fun. But on the flip side, ancient Greek is such a pain in the butt to get. And I never actually learned ancient Greek, but from the kids that did, my friends in college, it was, 1,000 articles for everything. The different alphabet was a mess. But after you started learning it, it got easier as it went along. Very interesting how those two trended differently. Does the poem you're reading currently, Fool Killer, have any Latin in it? Just thinking about it. As that might be a reason. Yeah, there's a lot of poems that use, that obviously sift into different languages. In fact, one of my fellow poets, Mark Peterson, typewriter poets, I should say, he loves using different languages in poems. He's a, I don't know what do you call it when you're a lover of languages or you learn languages well. Goodness, that escapes me. Point being is that he's really good at it. Compared to me, I don't know where I would start. I tried learning Spanish for the longest time. I can do some Spanish in poems, but he knows Hebrew, he knows Russian. He doesn't know them fully, but he knows them enough to play with them. German. There was another one too. And so, and I don't think he knows Latin, but I mean, I know a little bit of Latin, and the use of different languaged words is interesting in poems. I wonder why, not that I wonder why, but like, it changes things. It obviously forces someone to look at the word differently. Listening to the meaning, Awakening from the Meaning Crisis, makes me really think about how our artistic conscious interpretation, which is something that often the philosophers aren't thinking as much about. Like, a question of why do we interpret art the way we do is not as hard of a question on the mind of a philosopher as why is there evil in the world? So they don't think about that much. I think about it because it's very interesting, because changing the language of a word suddenly does so many things to a work of art, of a poem. Goodness, I forgot to mute myself for that sneeze. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm usually good about that. I did promise a full-length poem in this stream. I'm just not ready to write it yet. Remember yesterday I said I wasn't going to be using the Venus poem, but I've decided I'm going to. But I'm going to change it just a little bit. I think I actually like that change a lot. Glints of lifted glass, a toast to Venus herself. Beauty is the day, as opposed to beauty of the day. 2 letters, 1 word. It's funny because when I started reading that Fool Killer, I thought it was going to go a different way. But so you say, funnily enough, started learning French as well to understand an artist lecture. But I decided to keep it up for the heck of it. Well, I think that's a great idea. It's always good to learn for practical application. That was part of the issue with me in Spanish. I wanted to learn it. I wanted to be bilingual. My wife is actually, her parents both were born here, but their whole family is Colombian. Actually, I don't think they were born here. I think they were born in Colombia. The point is there's a lot of Spanish, South American heritage there, and I wanted to channel it. But my wife doesn't speak Spanish around the house at all. She doesn't like speaking it. And so as a result, I didn't get the practice I would need. That's all right. So this was a repaired typewriter. The platen was hard, the keys were all gunked up. Not really like thoroughly repaired, but just slightly, by me. I have to say I'm very impressed with the final product of it. As part of the funny thing about being a typewriter poet is it's very easy to test your machines when you also repair them. There's also something very meditative when it comes to the repeating of these haikus. That's one of the coolest things about the consistent and constant writing that I do is I'm always in touch with poetry. Like I could, if I needed to. I'm trying to say this so it doesn't come out pretentious. I do a lot of work even right now in my own life. I have 3 different part-time jobs. That number fluctuates depending on the day. So I'm doing a lot of stuff that is not poetry a lot of the time. But I am very lucky that I have set things up in my life that a whole bunch of the time I could be doing poetry. And so even if it's just retyping haikus, it's not a mechanical thing for me because I love the idea of just being centered around my work more than just an hour or 2 hours or anything like that. Like I get to do this as part of my life process, my career. Except when I typo. Part of me also doesn't want to just become a haiku machine. That would not be good for me. Except if all the haikus are unique like they were yesterday. I don't often do runs, but I figure that between the last project and this project, if I were to write 100 different haikus about weddings, I might be a little hard-pressed. Just a little. I did not watch the album premiere last night. I'll be right back.
Yeah, it's a mobile stabilizer, so it makes it smooth.
I did not watch the album premiere because I wanted to make sure that I could get up. I've been basically getting up a couple of minutes before 5 a.m. every morning at this point. And so the album premiere would have started at 10. It just wouldn't have worked. Or even after that.
Yeah, it's a mobile stabilizer,
But I will be listening to it at a certain point during the day today when I'm working on projects. I was hoping to be able to just kind of sit and listen to it, but I don't think that's going to be possible with my time frame. But still, I hope that it was good, and I am sure that it was absolutely out of this world, and I'm sure Akira will be playing some songs this morning. But yeah, it was literally just bedtime. You got to stay disciplined on that for me. That's what I need. I've kind of been starting to channel more of a Jocko routine, by which I mean Jocko Willink, for anybody that might not know. I have been going to sleep around 9:30, roughly, waking up at 4:55, having done most of the prep and exercise of my morning routine by 6, so that I could actually have an hour before this stream to be able to do what I need to do to get ready. And so that has been working out splendidly for me. I really love it, actually, that routine, because I feel like I'm getting a jump on everything. Spectacular is the words that Fool Killer is using for the new Akira the Don album. I would not doubt it one bit. It's funny because I think about John. I think it's actually Akira, Jordan B. Peterson that was mentioning the example of the marshmallow experiment, and so this is an ultimate marshmallow experiment for me, because trust me, the only thing I want to do right now is listen to that album. That's not true. But I really did want to listen to it last night, but I had a overwhelming feeling of you got to keep in the zone, you got to go to sleep for that zone. I did a lot of these. I guess. Alright, well, I'll keep going. Fool Killer says, at least with this much work on these poems, you have a wellspring of resources for haikus and weddings. Indeed. Well, all these haikus are going to a local venue that does tours, and so these will be given out as favors for the tour guests who are looking to possibly have a wedding there. The hope is then that some of them will want to have more at their own wedding. And also, what I plan on doing is I plan on extending all of these runs so that the next time I have a wedding, people can do takeaways on these haikus for free. I don't know if this is something I will continue long term, but it makes me happy now. Something tells me that it shouldn't be making noise like that. Now that I just realized it. I do believe I fixed it. So the type bars are hitting the top of this thing, not this, but this. And so as a result, it was making a clacking sound, which obviously typewriters clack, but not that much. So fixed it. Well, now it's making that sound again. Maybe it was in number keys? Like, there we go, the letter W. I can't tell if that's what it is. Some letters it does it, and some letters it doesn't. And it does it less when the paper is under the paper belt. The internal mechanics of this machine. I think I'm going to do one more round because I have the discipline to do it. Unless there doth be protest from the chat. Maybe I can set a short poll. There you go. A little poll in case anybody wanted to try to sway what I decide to do here. I'm at least going to write one haiku in the process. There is no obligation to vote in the poll, but I probably will continue typing haikus if no one does. And each retype is kind of like a study into it. Like I get to, we have, yes. I will do one more round of haikus. Thank you for the encouragement. And what it does is it helps me study into the ones that I've written. What would I change? What would I do different? It forces me to kind of look at them and analyze them over and over. Even sometimes actually making those changes like I did in the last one. Or not the last one, one before that. Well, this was the one that was supposed to be barn eaves. You know what? People trade a lot for creative freedom. I mean, I know I've definitely given up on a lot of things. In a good way. Did it again. I wrote farm instead of barn. This one's going to stick with that. It's these little variations that make the haikus unique. And also, for those that might be watching and lurking and working as well, it's cool because we're kind of in work lockstep, which I've had several people tell me. Shout out to the lurkers. Shout out to the people that are working. In fact, I would highly encourage you to treat this. My goodness, my typewriter's moving. I thought we solved this problem by getting a typewriter map. That's the whole point of a typewriter map. I would highly encourage you not to sit and just watch me peck away on the typewriter, but use the aura of the moment, the occasional voice, for productive means. But if you are just interested in watching the typewriter peck away, that also works too. It's a great thing about being the poetry studio. It's whatever you want it to be. I'm definitely making it whatever I want it to be. So don't don't feel like that you have to make it what I want. You want it to be. Am I making sense there? I think I'm losing train of thought. LJ Gibbons says, raise ourselves first. We must, as not to repeat the same mistake. It helps know you can't put your foot in the same place twice in the lake. Whoa! Oh, that's a pair of lines. Raise ourselves first, we must, as not to repeat the same mistake. It helps us to know you can't put their foot in the same place twice in a lake. I added a syllable there by accident, but good. Oh man, that's a cool line. You cannot put your foot in the same place twice in a lake. Indeed. Water's always flowing. A lake is basically a standing river, which is a contradiction, but it works. Good morning. I tried getting my little girl to watch. That's mine, thanks. And that is yours. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, I can't tell now because you're telling me that sometimes it's from the wall and sometimes it's from your heart. But that one is from your heart. I think that's really beautiful. Well, a shame that Twitch can't be good enough to put lines in the right format. Yeah, I'm just doing retyping of my haikus, but I'm going to probably type an original poem after I finish this last line here. Oh no, there we go. Retyping these haikus for the collection of haikus, which is going to be given to this venue so that they can give out to their potential customers and my potential customers, hopefully. So that is good for now. I'll leave those there for tomorrow. Yeah, I had I don't want to go too much into it, especially because to cut to the chase, it's a political thing that I've been dwelling on, and I don't want to write about it overtly. Like, I don't want to, both whether I were live or not live. LJ says, the one on my son's wall I heard while watching Gunsmoke. I never take credit. Gunsmoke is a good show. Very good show. I had this period in high school when I watched a lot of TV Land. I was very nostalgic. But basically the poem that I might free write today to kind of help me process, this is process poetry, is about how, you know, you might be very, very attached to something, and then the years pass and you still kind of walk through the motions of being attached to that thing, and then suddenly you realize I'm not as attached to it anymore, am I? You know? Whether it's a cause, whether it's a belief, whether it's a place or person even. That's kind of my feeling this morning. LJ says, why didn't we get to hear your poems today? I had one I wrote about my wife. Oh, well, I mean, if you want to send me your poem, I'd love to potentially read it on the stream. Right now what I'm doing is I'm working on my own original poem. The one before, these were haikus that I already read yesterday. They're the same haikus just being typed up. How Fool Killer says, the word farm from the haiku got me thinking. Do you think that a wedding is the beginning of a relationship or the product of one? There's something random that popped into my head. I love that question. And I'm thinking about it because I currently have writer's block on the poem that's on the typewriter, and I'm deciding, and I'll read this one at the end, L.J. Gibbons. I mean, I think that traditionally, weddings were the beginnings of a relationship. And now, they are more the products of a relationship. I mean, after all, it's only a recent phenomenon. This is the scariest sentence I've ever thought I'd say, but it's only a recent phenomenon, the notion of marrying for love. You know? That's a scary thought. Like, you know, like Akira always talks about the ancestors, and he always talks about how, you know, people had to wipe their butts with rocks. You know, that was his whole thing. I hope your little girl isn't listening, LJ. But the point is marrying for love is a relatively new concept as well. And so that is why that change, that thought that popped into your head is because it's been both. And in some cultures, it still is the beginning of a relationship. But one of the wisest things I ever heard told to me by one of my teachers in high school, a Christian brother. He talked about how he really he could not understand and grasp the concept of matched marriages. That, you know, that somebody, you know, you don't get to choose who you marry, you are matched up with somebody. And albeit I'm not in favor of it, and he wasn't in favor of it, for all of a very good reason. But one of the things that he pointed out was that being matched in matrimony forces you to dive into growing love, which is something that every couple must do over time. And that's perfectly fine, L.J. Gibbons. My wife and I never got married in the eyes of the church, just the Lord and our hearts. Well, I mean, hey, that's if you're there, that's the, you know, the most important thing is the self-view, I think, of where you two are at. But what's interesting is that a relationship starts, this is my understanding of it. Don't claim any wise aged wisdom because I'm not aged and I'm probably not wise, but a relationship starts and you fall in love with somebody and you absolutely love them. And then you decide you want to commit your life to them because it's better to spend your life with one person, I think, as best as you can, because that produces stability. You get to learn more about each other. It's kind of like a growing investment. It's like when you start to invest in an IRA at age 25 instead of age 50. And it's fine if you invest in an IRA at age 50, but I've banked on that. My wife and I really believe we're going to get married for life. And then, at a certain point, you know, the fire isn't as fiery as it used to be, and, you know, you get used to the person's patterns. You get to see how much of an idiot they can be sometimes, you know. I know that my wife thinks I'm such a dope. But then that's when you choose to love, because then you're with a new person. And you are technically in a matched marriage. And so the brother kind of graced me with some of this wisdom at that time, that matched marriages highlight the fact that all love is really a choice, not necessarily a feeling. And so, I mean, I've always found that the marriage commitment, you know, helps with that process, because it's the reminder of, hey, you know, barring that, you know, this other person goes and, you know, commits genocide, I'm kind of hooked with them. And that has helped my wife and I through some tough times, and I'm sure it's helped many couples through tough times. L.J. Gibbons says exactly. Well, I hope that does make sense. And so the wedding can be both, but the more important thing is that the wedding is kind of the cement of one. It's the beginning of a relationship. Yeah, you could start out with a cement. You could start out with a foundation, or you could, you could decide that after having a log cabin for years, you would decide to want to have a concrete cabin, and so its placement is kind of, well, to me, it's important, but it's also irrelevant. Like it's more of a thing like that. And L.J. Gibbons says we're content with our choices and it works for us. And hey, that's all you can ever ask for from life. And that kind of helps me with this poem. I wish that it was clearer on the page. I mean, if I lift this up, is that clearer? I guess it's clearer. Maybe that'll help. I need to get myself a better webcam at this point. At this point, I have to wrap up this stream. 8 o'clock is actually kind of a hard stop for me, but I will read this poem, Letting Go. I spoke words I would never speak again. I maybe wish, but more so live in the current tick. Second after second, never returning to those younger years. Fire branding my spirit seems to fade, but I have dived into new waters. Oceans away from the call of the ember once heard. You are beautiful, self-father. You dreamed and learned a greater lesson than storybook success. We were sent to suffer for love, to embrace loss like he is an old friend, to thank the Father, Son, and Spirit, wind that softly erodes the past into future. Yeah, so those that might be tuning in now, the story of this poem is that there were just things in my past, not crazy things. Some of them are a little political, so I don't want to discuss them in detail. But the point is there's a certain, there's certain things that I'm leaving behind and letting go, passions and even beliefs to a certain extent. Not necessarily that I change my beliefs. You don't get to choose what you believe, but more the way that you carry those beliefs. That's always a distinction. And this poem's about that. So thank you all very much for being here. Thank you all for tuning in and hanging out and being part of the creative work that happens, which today was less creative and more repetitive, and that's just the way it is for me. And I love working through these poems, studying through my haikus, and having people that decide to join me. So thank you again for that. And we'll be tuning out at this point, but I will be back here once again tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. You have a great day, and take care.